In the New Testament, we have one particular chapter that teaches the extreme danger our tongue can be. What chapter is that? If you don't know the chapter, you can tell me the book. In the book of James. What chapter? James 2. Excellent. It's like a wildfire. Here's an appropriate night to be talking about that, isn't it? We've got these wildfires all over the place we're praying for. Okay? What's that? Oh, is it James 3? You know what? I didn't bring my answer key up here. Okay, James 3. Appreciate that. Yes. James 3:5. See how great a forest is set aflame by such a small fire. The tongue is a fire, the very world of iniquity. All right, so it's James 3. If you wrote down James 2, then that's incorrect, and you tricked me. That's good. All right. I knew I should have brought the answer key up here. Now, if the tongue is dangerous, why might that be a factor in our consideration as we evaluate biblical counseling, as we evaluate psychotherapy? Well, what happens in those sessions? What happens for 50 minutes, 55 minutes? Well, 50 minutes is the billable hour in the world of secular counseling and Bible counseling. What happens to that tongue when you're in those sessions? It just gets to wagging. It's wagging and wagging and wagging, and the counselor will actually goad you. If it's not flapping enough, he wants more. He will promote more. He's not going to let you just simply be quiet and not say anything. If he suspects you're holding something back, that's a problem in his universe. Because you're not entitled to keep anything private. You can trust him. It's all in confidence. You've got freedom. It's anonymous. No one will know. Okay? And you can share your innermost secrets and all your fears and all your worries and all your concerns. Just, we need more, we need more, we need more. And they're trained to do that. That's their prime methodology. If they allow you to keep things hidden or keep things in, well, then you're suppressing. All right? That's bad. You know, you're holding it in. That's bad. You will cause mental damage if you hold it in, if you repress it. We'll talk about who developed this whole repression expression thing. And they don't want it kept in. They want it spilled out. Okay? Prime motivation there. And I think that's not accidental. That's deliberately designed. Because the demons can't read your mind, so they get you to verbalize it. And there it is. And they can listen to anything you happen to babble. All right. The two biggest objections in counseling, and these they come back to again and again and again, and if we don't answer anything after this question, we can say our class is over, right? The two biggest objections to counseling. Number one, it is something-centered, not Christ-centered. It is problem-centered. Yes, problem-centered. And then number two, it inevitably leads to sinful what? Sinful speaking, right, or evil speaking. Two biggest issues, and I guarantee that's where your counseling session is going to go. It's going to be problem-centered. It's going to lead to sinful speaking. And that is a theme that's going to come up chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter. And they'll document the different schools of psychological thought. They'll document the different approaches that are taken. They'll demonstrate, even from some of the training manuals for so-called biblical counseling, Christian counseling, that these are the methods that are demanded. These are the methods that are practiced. Problem-centered, leading to sinful speaking. All right, who was the Austrian physician who discovered an invisible energy field or an invisible fluid field that he called animal magnetism? Who is this Austrian physician? Mesmer. That's right, Mesmer. And this theory put forth the concept of unbalance and rebalance. So keep that in mind for later topics. But this whole concept of animal magnetism, that there's this energy field. And then later on it kind of speculated, well, it might be fluid in nature. It might be connected to the bodily fluids. That it's either a fluid level or it's an energy field or it's something, an animal magnetism. And a lot of the early experiments actually used magnets, magnetic experimentation upon different patients, putting these powerful magnets over you and through you and running magnetic waves all across you. And that's well, at least it's scientific in a way, What happens if we put you through this powerful magnet? Do you feel better? Later on, though, that was dismissed, and he kind of got away from the fluid. Now, there's no question that magnetism affects tides. It affects fluids. We understand the moon and the tides and things. And I guess it's not too off the wall to ask yourself, does the moon affect, people and their moods? Do people get more moody with a full moon? Okay, there are legitimate crime statistics that would validate some connection there. Anyway, later on, though, the magnetic experiments kind of ended, and they went strictly to a hypnosis experimentation basis and started to try to use hypnosis to speak to the subconscious instead of speaking to the conscious mind and different things. But the whole idea was that you're not a sinner, you're just out of balance. Your animal magnetism is off balance. And it needs to be adjusted. It needs to be rebalanced. And if you bring it into balance, if you bring it into harmony, then your problems go away. And you're well balanced, well adjusted. And just keep that in mind, because that comes back again and again and again and again. It's the mythology behind psychotropic drugs. It's the mythology behind, well, you got a chemical imbalance in your brain, and you need these pharmaceuticals now will bring that into balance. See, and keep that in mind for upcoming classes, because it's all mythology, none of it's science. All right, so that's the Austrian physician Mesmer. Very good. And so this man's name became coined with an ism. It gave birth to America to hypnosis, new thought, and psychotherapy, and that is mesmerism. Mesmerism. And it's amazing. Mesmerism is the forefather of psychotherapy. It's the forefather of secular counseling. It's the forefather of biblical counseling. And just because we start using biblical language and vocabulary and a few verses scattered here and there does not change fundamentally that the practice that's engaged in is mesmerism. And people are paying good money to go get mesmerized. Isn't that something? All right. Another Austrian physician who, quote unquote, discovered psychological repression. Repression. And so he diagnosed its cure to be expression. All the problems you have is that you are repressing harmful memories. You are repressing harmful feelings, and you are bottling it all in. And the cure, and that's what's making you sick, and that's what's leaving you mentally depressed and discouraged and so forth, mentally ill. And what you need to do is you need to express it. Free association was a great methodology related to this. But who was this Austrian physician? Not Mesmer, but the other one. Freud. Sigmund Freud. There you go. Sigmund Freud. By the way, if you ever read... who was the author? He wrote... I read this years ago when I was a first-year seminary student. It was 7 Men Who Rule the World from the Grave. Are you familiar with that? And Freud's one of them. Okay? 7 Men Who Rule the World from the Grave. And it's all about how the secular humanism philosophy now controls the world, and it comes from Freud and Dewey and just a whole list of these men from the 19th and early 20th centuries. Interesting book. Breeze, I think, is the author's name, and we got it in the church library if you want to check it out. All right. So this is what he discovered. Now, how did he discover this? Was it similar to the discovery of penicillin? Is it something that was discovered on the basis of scientific experiment, whereby results can be repeated, whereby testing can be confirmed through others repeating your experimentation and validating your conclusions? Or is this just simply a theory that a lot of people say, well, that makes sense. And people just kind of go along with it. How do these things get started? How do they gain such acceptance? Well, on an earthly level, a lot of times it makes no sense to me. Why would there be a wholesale cultural embracing of a concept as crazy as that? Because they want to. They want to be deluded. The spirit of this age is leading them into this deception. Repression, yeah, that's it. That's the problem. I'm not really a sinner. I don't need to repent. Nothing wrong with what I'm doing. But I need to get this out. I've repressed this. I didn't even know I repressed it. That's even better. Oh, I must have done this unconsciously. I didn't even realize I was repressing all this. Wow, but thanks to all of these session after session after session of hypnosis and counseling and recovered memories, and oh, I'd forgotten about that. Oh, I'd forgotten about that. And it's interesting. You know, we learned different techniques in law enforcement of interviewing folks and asking questions. And through the questions you ask, and you keep going over the same ground again and again, you approach it different ways, and you can kind of lead them into answering in different ways. And it's interesting. You can, did you mean this? And you plant little words, little ideas, and before you know it, their memories are slightly adjusted, and their recollection of their eyewitness recollection slightly adjusted. Again and again and again, slightly adjusted, slightly adjusted. You do this week after week, month after month, year after year, you can end up with a whole memory of an event that never happened. But to you it happened. Boy, you remember it clear as day. How do you know that? Because you've been talking about it over and over and over and over again. You've talked yourself into these memories. You've talked yourself into these memories. All right. The most curative expression, the best way to express yourself. And now, I'll tell you, our whole culture is given over. It's all about self-expression, right? That's in the First Amendment of our Constitution. We all have the right of self-expression. See, that's how they've kind of taken freedom of speech. It's now freedom of expression and all on getting my expression out here. To say whatever comes to mind without restraint. Now, stop right there. What does the Bible say? Is there a place for restraint? What does the Bible call that? Discernment, discretion, wisdom. Daniel answered Arioch with discernment and discretion. Let us consider how we might answer to each one. Let us. Our speech is to be seasoned with grace as with salt. We should have consideration, and we should be guarded about what we say. Again, James 3, the tongue is a fire. Let's be cautious. Let's put a lid on that. Let's put a restraint on that, like in a bit in a horse's mouth. But see, that is totally the antithesis, the opposite of what secular counseling is all about, what the Freudian approach would be. No, you got to say whatever comes to mind. No restraints. Just say it. Say it. Free association, free expression. If I throw out a word, you tell me the first word to cross your mind. All right? No restraints, no limits. It might even be a bad word. It might be a curse word. It might be something sexual. And a lot of times this stuff gets very sexual very quickly. Freud and all of his Oedipus stuff and mother stuff and just disgusting. Okay? Eventually, that kind of stuff got dismissed as not appropriate. But so much of the Freudian stuff is still embraced as being applicable. All right.